On Friday, I called the Saguache County clerk and I asked them how all these members of the community that are reaching out to me can get in touch with the court so that the judge can see these emails of support prior to Adam's third attempt at an arraignment hearing on Wednesday. On Saturday, I started getting word that people's emails were being bounced back. The Saguache County clerk and district attorney don't have email capabilities. Update. As you know, Adam Kokesh was arrested last Friday, the 10th of December, when he was pulled over by Saguache County police for not having a license plate on his vehicle. The Constitution says we have the right to travel, and that does not depend on whether or not we pay an extortion fee prior to that travel. So he was pulled over for not having license plates, and somehow his vehicle was searched. The police reports say he was acting erratic. Exercising your rights may seem erratic to police, but it is absolutely acceptable behavior for any nonviolent human being and citizen of the United States to exercise. They stole his microdose capsules of psilocybin mushrooms that he and so many other combat and non-combat veterans use to treat their PTSD. Rape victims, abandonment victims, tragic accident victims, people who were witness to murders or otherwise violent crimes and survived. PTSD is not just a veteran thing. So Saguache County Police not only stole Adam Kokesh's PTSD medication, psilocybin mushrooms, but they then assaulted him and threw him in a cage, and they are now asking him to sign pieces of paper that say that he may or may not have been a party in a crime. However, they cannot name a victim in said crime. So Adam is standing strong to his principles. If there is no victim, there is no crime, and I will not sign your paperwork. He's refused to see the judge. He's demanding the return of his property and the release of himself and an apology because, let's face it, we learned this in kindergarten. If you hurt your friends, even if it's accidental and you're just doing your job, if you steal from them, you say you're sorry, you give them their things back, and then you move on as productive citizens working together towards a better goal of a live and let live society. But that's not the society we live under. And right now, our veteran is being held captive. And instead of complying, instead of paying a ransom, instead of accepting the community and his friends' money to bail him out, he's standing strong to his principles. You guys have been sending emails, and I love that. On Friday, I called the Saguache County clerk, and I asked them how all these members of the community that are reaching out to me can get in touch with the court so that the judge can see these emails of support prior to Adam's third attempt at an arraignment hearing on Wednesday, which he will still refuse to see the judge. I promise you that much. The clerk gave me an email, which was saguacheclerk@colorado.us. something, and I proceeded to publish it all over, and you guys started sending emails, and that was awesome. Then all of a sudden, on Saturday, I started getting word that people's emails were being bounced back, and they were being told in an seemingly auto-generated message that because they're not party to this crime, that their emails won't get to the judge. So I've been patiently waiting all weekend to get a hold of somebody. I called the clerk back and I was like, hey, clerk, remember we talked Friday? You gave me this email address. Oh, yeah, that's, I must have misunderstood. You need to talk to the DA directly. Awesome. So I called the DA. I don't know her name because she thought she didn't have to give it to me, even though she's a public servant and is required to. But she couldn't stop interrupting me. It was really hard for me to get a sentence out. But the woman at the DA's office told me that I had to call the clerk, and the clerk said I had to call them, and this went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. She got very defensive for some reason. I mean, when you deal with your own inner guilt, when you're working for a system that cages nonviolent criminals who haven't created victims, I mean, you can get kind of triggered when that guilt gets stirred up inside of you. So she told me that we could hand deliver these messages. Wow. 2021, you can literally video conference an entire group of people and share a meal, right, across the globe. But the Saguache County clerk and district attorney don't have email capabilities. Come on, guys. I highly doubt that. I've been involved with small town courts that even make you sign in on that big oversized like book, right? I've seen that, but they even have emails. So I highly doubt that Saguache County has no email that the public can use to get a hold of the judge presiding over a case, but that's what I've been told. We can, however, walk these in. Now, the woman at the DA did tell me, she said in not so many words, that this was going to be a wild ride. That we should have no expectation of Adam being released on Wednesday, which means they intend to keep this combat veteran in a cage through Christmas, away from his family, away from his medicine, to sit in a dark cell by himself in solitary confinement with PTSD. So, that's where we're at. That's the society that we have allowed to continue by participating. A lot of people are saying Adam should bail out and Adam should fight his battle from the outside. I say no. For almost 100 years, we've been fighting these battles from the outside and nothing's changed. We've got some legalization, but still every day in those legal states, people are arrested for nonviolent drug possession. A lot of them veterans that are medicating because they don't want to take the dangerous pills that the VA has to offer them. So if the battle's been fought for almost 100 years from the outside and it's not working, what next? A different approach, perhaps? Perhaps the approach that Captain Freebeard is taking. Let's take it back to the merchant and pirate days. Stay with me here. Okay, or you can even go back further. You can go medieval. Like whatever your cosplay fantasy world thing is, where we're not living in this modern society. As somebody from one camp gets taken hostage, do their armies pay the ransom? Probably at first. And this keeps happening again. And this camp keeps losing things, and they keep giving money to get people back. But these other people keep attacking against the treaties that they've made with each other. At some point, you don't pay the ransom anymore. At some point, America stopped paying the ransom to England, and that's how we gained our freedom. Just imagine if half the people arrested for a nonviolent crime refused to book in. Refused to see the judge, refused to pay the ransom, how quickly the city jails would pack up. These police would find themselves in a position where logistically they wouldn't be able to enforce these nonviolent crimes anymore, these victimless crimes. Because if your city jail is full of a bunch of people who are smoking cannabis or using psilocybin or hell, even exchanging money for sexual acts or working at strip clubs or any of these nonviolent crimes that we've created. If their jails are full of those people and there's a murderer out on their streets, they're going to have to eventually start letting these people go. And this is the wave that I hope Adam will start. Because we're not going to change things by just paying their ransom and going and seeing the judge. Even when you get a victory, even in the case where, like George Floyd, where police brutally murders somebody, and the family gets justice by means of money, which, don't get me wrong, is needed in this society, especially if you're left over to live with the residual impact of that violent crime that took your family member. But that money comes from the taxpayers. The government's not being held responsible. The police departments aren't being held responsible. They're making a judgment to make the family whole on the backs of the community. This isn't okay. Did you guys hear this? Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd, and we paid for it. So fighting our battles on the outside is still playing their game. We're not changing anything. They're robbing from Peter to pay Paul. This is Robin Hood all over again. I envision the little old lady bunny and the little owl pastor and all the little woodland creatures in the Disney rendition of the Robin Hood story suffering over money. And to get them out, their friends who are impoverished as well have to give more money. We need to change this. So if you sent an email, keep it up. If you unfortunately get pulled over and are victim to the drug war and you find yourself in a cell, do not comply. Reach out to me. Let's start this revolution. Let's stand with Adam. I hope to God he's out Wednesday, but from talking to the DA, it doesn't sound like they're going to budge. It sounds like they're going to keep this veteran and torture him like they tortured his dogs outside. By the way, Thelma and Louise are back with at least one of their parents and one of their humans, but they missed their daddy dearly. And their daddy needs your emails of support. So if you sent an email and it got bounced back, forward that email to me at joey@thefreedomline.com. That's JOIE at thefreedomline.com. If you haven't had the chance to send an email yet, send it to joey@thefreedomline.com. Make sure hashtag free Kokesh is in the beginning of the subject line so that I can keep these things organized. Best we can do is have somebody with boots on the ground print these out and deliver them to the courthouse. I'm terrified to even show up because he was arrested, detained, and assaulted for doing nothing, for minding his own business and driving through this town. And they're holding him hostage? What could they do to me or you? And I can tell you right now, I'm not going down there without witnesses, at least 2 or 3. And videos running to make sure that myself or nobody else involved gets assaulted over this. Over just being friends and standing up with our friend that's being held a prisoner of a drug war in this internment camp in Saguache, Colorado. It's terrible. I also encourage you to do some research on Saguache, Colorado Police Department and the corruption involved in the individual municipalities around there, which makes this even more terrifying. Because a police department that has been accused of corruption all over the internet multiple times. There's been documentary films, independent films made about it. Now has our guy held captive. They assaulted him. They took him from his truck, threw him in the back of another vehicle by gunpoint, and now he's sitting in a cell. What could they do to any one of us? What more could they do to him the longer they hold him? And that's why we have to keep calling in support. So send me your emails and be vigilant. I don't want any of you watching it end up in a cage, but if you do stand strong to your principles, we can start a wave that changes the future here. But only if we're all in this together. Guys, remember, pass joints, not judgment. We are the revolution. I'm the Commander-in-Chief, and I approve this message. Visit platoon420.com today and take the pledge. I will stand tall in the face of tyranny for the best interest of myself and my community. I denounce the archaic drug laws that have made victims of people they were written to protect, and I will not support any legislation that regulates what a person puts in their body.